Today, I'm going to give you 10 stone-cold reasons why the NBA, despite its shiny new $76 billion media rights deal, is losing its fight for your attention. And cultural relevance. Now, the health and wealth of the American basketball machine is a topic I've spent the last decade interrogating. I mean, I've made 2 whole feature films about it. So yes, I will be in my bag today. And if you're hungry for more, subscribe to the channel and go check those 2 movies out. I'd recommend starting with the spoils. It will blow your mind. Now, to set the table for us today, here's a recent post from Andrew Marchand, a writer for The Athletic over at the New York Times. He writes, "I personally don't care if people think the NBA is on the way up or on the way down, but 3 huge companies paid $76 billion. A 4th wanted to stay in at those numbers. A 5th had real interests, so... ... So the what? This analysis manages to fuse the moronic superficiality of today's journalism with the very same money worship that's drowning the league he covers. The scope and size of the NBA's media deal says 10 times more about the corporations that are paying out those dollars than it does about the health of the league itself. And the truth is, the NBA is, to use Marchand's language, on the way down. Destined for the irrelevance that defined it before Magic, Bird, and Michael Jordan rescued the league from obscurity in the mid-'80s and the early '90s. I wish this weren't the case, but to say it in plain English, the NBA is garbage that's just not worth anyone's time anymore. And here are the 10 big reasons why. Reason number 10. There are no stakes. 82 games is simply too many, by a wide margin. The sweet spot would probably be somewhere between 60 and 65 games, but, of course, that will never happen, because the money. The NBA has obviously chosen to play the content game, and it's clear that they consider the regular season as an innings eater for their broadcast partners. Forgettable filler to lube out the dead space between the commercials. And in the player-empowered load management era, stars play somewhere between 60 and 70 games a season, so you never know who's going to be sitting out night to night. And here's the problem. You can't teach your audience that your product doesn't matter for 7 months, and then expect their viewing habits to change when you suddenly reintroduce stakes during the playoffs. And the TV ratings bear that out. It's down, down, down. Now, you might explain the dog shit ratings by pointing to how the internet has fragmented mainstream culture into a million different pieces. And of course it has. That's the point. And if the NBA product has no stakes, no reason for demanding your attention, then it'll drown in an ocean of meaningless content. If it's not essential, if it's not mandatory in my life, it will eventually be forgotten. And you're seeing that now. The internet isn't an excuse or an explanation. It's the reason the NBA must find a way to breathe more urgency and meaning into the game, which it is utterly failing to do. On to number 9, the streaming paywalls that make watching the games harder and more expensive than ever. You might have seen this graphic floating around the internet. It's the watch guide for where fans can now find and watch games under the new media deal. And Sportico is reporting that it will cost fans $650 to watch NBA games across all the services this season. Now yes, that's a lot of fiat cuckbucks. And of course, the internet has memes for the absurdity of this asking price. Well, Bomani Jones chimed in yesterday with his 2 cents on the new cover charge to get into the NBA's nightclub. Not sure why people think seeing every NBA game is a birthright. That's a ridiculous expectation. Access has been provided. You get to decide if it's worth it or not. Bomani is, of course, correct about it not being a birthright, and his framing is spot on. We get to decide if it's worth it or not. And it's not. The games are meaningless. So not only is it not worth the money, but it's not worth the time. And my time is my most precious resource. Which brings us to number 8. Every play is the same. The worst thing I can say about the NBA is that it's boring, tired, and predictable. Look, I'm not here to argue with the nerds or the numbers. I get it. The point is to win, and jacking more threes produces more points. Cool. Here's what I know. Every NBA possession is the same. Literally, all 30 NBA teams run effectively the same offense. Come down, run a high pick and roll, hunt the mismatch you want, and then drive and kick for a high percentage 3. Sound familiar? It's because you've seen it literally a zillion times. But that's what happens when the individualized chaos of AAU basketball is fused with the Moneyball data-driven analytics. But don't take my word for it. I actually think Kobe said it best.
So like these players now play accidental basketball, and it drives me and Phil crazy because it's all penetrating pitch. You may make the shot, you may not. You have no idea who's going to be open or whatever. It's accidental basketball. We play basketball with purpose.
Accidental basketball and endless three-pointers. No thanks. For over 20 years, I built my social calendar around watching as many Laker games as I possibly could. Honestly, it was an unhealthy amount. But today, the only reason to turn the game on is to see if we're making our threes or not. And frankly, I'm good on that. Again, there is no more damning criticism of the league than how deeply boring and predictable it's become. Speaking of boring, that brings us to number 7. The NBA has become a corporate wasteland, and you can feel it in the experience. The bottom line is, the NBA is now a lifestyle brand, and it's permanently exterminated the relationship it once enjoyed with its blue-collar, working-class fan base. Courtside celebrities, branded partnerships, and luxury suites have replaced the show-and-prove playground authenticity and improvised artistry that once made the league so irresistible, so culturally magnetic, legitimately must-see TV. But the NBA has bent over backwards to reinvent itself into this corporate, brand-safe space. And the end result is, it's dead inside. It's a sterile corporate presentation made for sponsors, not for fans. And this, of course, tracks with the money avalanche that has professionalized the system's base layer, AAU basketball. I've covered this at length in previous videos and in both of my feature films. So if you're into this, subscribe and go watch the spoils, and then dig into our playlists. It's a rabbit hole worth going down, I promise you. Now, number 6, the gambling money. Circling back to the no stakes issue, whether it was intentional or not, the NBA did stumble into a strategy for injecting some stakes, some urgency, into an otherwise lifeless zombie product. Gambling. Now, I'm not here to whine about how the NBA's marriage to DraftKings and FanDuel is some sort of moral failing or indictment of its ethics, although there's a lot of meat on that bone. The real problem is how it's hollowing out our emotional relationship to the NBA. Raising this new generation of fans on DraftKings and FanDuel encourages them to see these players as financial instruments, prop bets, vehicles for their parlay. But setting aside how dehumanizing that is, it also installs a simple yet suicidal idea in your fans' mind that your product on the floor is not compelling enough to sustain their attention. You need some extra juice because this game is simply not compelling enough. Now, whether the NBA realizes it or not, that's what they are teaching their fans. And what's that old Vegas cliche? The house always wins? Well, sooner or later, the fans will get tired of losing their money. And what then? You expect them to stick around for a game that they now associate with devastating their bank account? Good luck with that. Alright, so as I'm recording this video, this FBI indictment and NBA gambling scandal is breaking in real time. Lest you had any doubt about the money rot at the core of this system, here you go. NBA is such a hot mess. And I just did the gambling sequence. So we're going to split this out into 2 parts, and at the top of part 2, come back, do a deep dive on this cluster, and then tackle the rest of the top 5 from there. So smash that subscribe button, guys. There's a lot more on the way. I'm Mike Nicoll. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you again soon.